Hi, welcome to my channel. This is Amber Rain Davis from NotableInk.com. I'm going to be making a New Year's card today with some of the products from Altenews' brand new release. So we'll be doing some ink blending, embossing today, and we're going to be using the New York stamp set, which has a watercolor style silhouette with a lot of sentiments, and then the 2019 stamp set. As always, all of the products will be listed below. So I started off by prepping an A2 size card with an anti-static powder tool, and then I inked up my stamps with Versamark clear embossing ink. And you can see just that watermark there. I'm going to go ahead and put on some Ranger Platinum embossing powder. And the coverage on this was great. The stamp really stamped well, and I was able to get good embossing from just that one stamp. Be sure to preheat your heat tool before you bring it to the paper to lessen the warping that you may have. And we'll start ink blending with a number of different Distress Oxide colors. I'm going to start with Tumbled Glass. These are the new blending brushes that you may have seen, and I think they're amazing. Again, I'll have information listed below. I really struggled with ink blending with the circular sponges. I tended to get circles all over the place. It was hard for me to get a smooth blend. I find it very easy to blend with these brushes. If you like dark color, I do find that you will have to work a little bit harder to get a very pigmented surface. These have a much softer appearance, which you can see here. I also really enjoyed doing the ink blending on my new glass mat as well. So I tapped off the color, the excess color, onto the mat like I normally would have done onto my craft sheet. But what I'm also doing is using the mat as a palette. So the ink that I have tapped off, I'm going back into that puddle, if you will. It's not really a puddle because it's dry, of ink, and adding that to the card. So I kind of feel like there's maybe less waste there. You can certainly do that with your regular craft mat as well. And I believe this is Blueprint Sketch that I have here. I love this color. It's so pretty, so nice and vibrant. So I'm just speeding up the ink blending because otherwise we'll be here for a really long time. So I go in with a pretty soft appearance to all of the colors from the get-go. And then I'm going to go back in and add some additional layers. And my hand, because I'm really working at this ink blending, my hands were starting to get a little sweaty, and I was afraid it was going to activate the oxidation of the Distress inks. So I just grabbed a scrap of cardstock there, and I'll actually use that scrap of cardstock to clean the ink blending brush when I'm done. I really didn't I used the same brush for all of the ink blending for this card, and I did not clean in between the colors. I may have cleaned it after using this black here, but aside from that, I really didn't bother to brush off that color in between colors. So you can see that there. So that's really all I do to clean this brush. So even with the other projects that I've done, I think I've already used some greens on this. I really just wipe it off on a scrap piece of cardstock, and that's it. So you can see that the color is building nicely. So I'm going back in with some Wilted Violet to just darken that up. And I wanted to leave the sky that was down by the New York stamp lighter because I figured the city lights would brighten up the sky there, whereas as you get further and higher up into the sky, it would be darker with a night sky. So with my blending, I had really kind of just been sweeping straight across, and I'm trying to get just a little bit more of a dome with that purple to kind of frame the New York a little bit nicer. So once I'm done with the blending, I will go ahead and use just a dry paper towel to swipe it over the embossing, just to make sure that I get all of the ink off the embossing so that it's nice and bright. And you can see that I'm cleaning the colors in between the ink blending. I felt like I lost some of that tumbled glass down at the bottom, so I'm just adding a little bit more of that. and bringing it up a little bit further to blend with the Wilted Violet. And I think that's it. So once I was done with the ink blending, I felt like the 2019 wasn't standing out as much as I liked it to. So I decided to add some sparkle with a Wink of Stella pen. And you can see that because it's wet, and in fact, I filled the Wink of Stella with a little bit of water because mine was getting dry. So it's oxidizing the blueprint sketch up there, and it's turning it white and also sparkly with the glitter that's in there. So I felt like that stood out definitely more than it did without it, but I wasn't thrilled with the white color. I felt like it washed out the embossing, which I thought was such a pretty color. And so I'm going to go ahead and complete it because I didn't want to just stop midway. But as I'm doing this, I'm thinking about, okay, what can I do differently? Because this isn't how I want it to look. I really wanted it to be more vibrant like the rest of the card, and I really wasn't digging the white. So while I'm still thinking about how I'm going to fix that, I decided I definitely needed some stars in my sky. And these tiny little stars are from a Halloween mix set that I had. And that'll be down below. So what I did, I felt like it needed a frame around it. So I grabbed a Sakura Stardust pen. And this is a blue sparkly color. And I'm just adding a frame, a hand-drawn frame around it. So I'm just using a ruler so that I get it nice and straight. And I really liked the color of this. I thought it went with the blueprint sketch really nicely. Down there at the bottom, I had gotten a little on the embossing powder, so I was just wiping that off. So there I was just seeing how does it look when you try and fill in a space with it. So I practiced that on, or I checked it out on a scrap paper. And this is where I decided, okay, I'm going to do this on all of the numbers. And on this first one, I really was trying to test it out. And what I found is that when you go with back and forth strokes and go back on top of it, it can get kind of chunky. So you're going to see, I'm just trying to clean it up, and because it got a little chunky in there. And you can see when I go to the 0, so I just cleaned it off. I'm just going to go in one direction with my strokes now. So I'm just pulling the pen down and starting over again with each stroke so that I'm not swiping back and forth over an area that has already been filled in. That gave me a smoother surface. And then I got just a touch on the embossing. So I just wet that little kind of micro Q-tip applicator there so that I could clean the ink off of the embossing. So here's a close-up of the finished card. The other thing that I did was add a drop shadow behind the 2019 words. And then I drew a box around the sky's the limit to add a little extra something there. And the reason I did that is because I felt like the embossing, it just didn't show up quite enough. So you can see how much sparkle is there with that sparkle pen. It added a lot of shine that you can see in just some of the light, but not all of it. So overall, I really liked how this turned out. I think it's a fun and festive card. I hope this is something that you give a try. And if you feel inspired by this video, please hit the like button below. Be sure to subscribe here and at my Instagram and Facebook page at Notable Ink. I'll be sure to link a couple other videos at the end of this so that you can check those out as well. And be sure to check out the Altenew blog hop. There's so many great products in this release and so much inspiration. Thank you so much for stopping by, and have a great day.